I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carey Stinson, and as always, I'm thrilled you're here. We've got an exciting show this week. It's something we haven't done like this, and I was introduced by Danny Joe Lebrecht, Danny Joe's Treehouse, to these two gentlemen, and I just immediately fell in love with their work, and I was like, I got to have them on the show. So we have the young brothers, Matthew and Jared, artists, creators. They do commercial work, and it's their creative work that I'm just in love with. Guys, how are you?
Hello.
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's good to be here. And we grew up on, our sister grew up on Barney.
Yeah.
So.
We have a sister that's 11 years younger than
Yeah.
us. So we grew up twice watching kids shows.
We did, yeah. So Barney was definitely part of her generation, but we watched a lot of it.
You know,
And well, we'll just go right there. Is that the kind of stuff, not only Barney, but other kids shows that inspired you to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we grew up in the 80s and the early 90s, definitely influenced by the kid shows of those times. So Henson, anything live action like Zoobly Zoo, obviously Reading Rainbow,
Ernest P. Worrell.
Pee-wee's Playhouse. You know, Tim Burton is a huge influence on us. Just always live action stuff. We love cartoons too, but our passion has always been sort of the live action, practical, intimate sets and just puppets and creatures and fantasy worlds. We've always just really enjoyed that. So,
well, we're going to get into it's your new project that got me very excited, the Very Airy Library. But I know you also, and I want to start here with the fantastic world that you all do on Saturdays. I've been in this business a long time. I have seen so much. And obviously, as we've adapted to YouTube, I've seen so much. And children's entertainment is very difficult because, your audience they can tell the authenticity, and you got to have it all. You got to really do your education, your entertainment, all of those aspects. And there's a lot of people that get up on YouTube that have a show, but they don't do all the work behind it. And that's what I saw immediately when I was watching your show. And so let's talk about the fantastic world, because it's tricky. And I saw your little behind the scene video. And I was like, yeah, it's much more, it looks simple, but it's pretty impressive what you guys have done.
Pretty complex. I can take kind of the history of it.
Yeah.
Like, I think you got to understand where we came from. So when we graduated college, we didn't know what we were going to do. We had a painting business. So we've always worked with our hands, and we did interior painting. That's how we paid our bills, even though we had college degrees. We just didn't want to go get real jobs. We wanted to be our own bosses. But we started doing these little YouTube videos on the side and just kind of created these characters. And this was when YouTube just started. It was like, oh, have you heard of this thing called YouTube? You can put videos on it.
Yeah, 2005.
Yeah, so we had no production experience. We didn't go to film school, anything like that. Just our buddy bought a camera, and we started filming stuff, and we developed these characters, which we still do today, Bill and Charles Peterson. And then kind of simultaneously, we were doing small groups for this church, and one of the youth directors asked us to come perform, and we started doing some live performances. And then we decided that we wanted to shoot our own pilot. So having no production experience, we got this tiny studio, and we built this set, and we just hired a few people that kind of knew what they were doing, and we filmed a pilot. Somebody saw that pilot, a church. They hired us to make another piece of material. We put a lot more effort into the second one and developed, it's called Molly Pickens and the Rainy Day Castle, and you can actually watch it on Tubi. It's on Tubi, so everybody has Tubi, it's free. You can go watch it. And from there, Phil Vischer saw that, who created VeggieTales. And at the time, he had this company called Jelly Telly, and they were looking for just young faith-based creators. Being in the faith-based world, it was this, no offense to the faith-based world, but the bar was always very low, especially for children's creators, especially at that time for children's creators. And so we just had a little bit of production value, and he really liked what we were doing, and they gave us a little bit of money, and we made some content for them for the better part of our 20s. It was all faith-based. We call it value-based. And we sort of got away from that for a while, and did more commercial work, and just, we did a few projects. We did some movies. We did a movie with Burt Reynolds. It's not very good, I'll be honest with you, but
but it's Burt Reynolds.
It's a lovely experience.
No, it's Burt Reynolds, and that's how you make it in this business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
All the famous Barney stories from the beginning. I mean, the character was, they call him the blue dog, and he became a purple dinosaur, and the videos were very simple and where they came. So I'm totally down with where you were and where you are.
So long story short, we knew we wanted to come back to these characters. They were always, children's media has always been our passion, just our first passion.
And why is that?
I just think we like to goof around. So it's like, it's like we like silly humor. And kids are fun. Like kids just that type of the childish wonder, I guess. They appreciate the silliness a lot more than adults. Like the type of silliness that we enjoy. Like
one of the things that all the anecdotes we used to tell, we used to perform live at churches all over the country, Canada. They would hire us. We'd come in, just two of us. We do a show, like a Saturday night show. It was a big deal. Like all the children's ministry kids would come. And no matter where you were in the country, we did all kinds of denominations. No matter where you were, the kids were always the same. You could always predict how the kids would react. The adults, completely different across the board. Mm-hmm. Just depending on what region you were in, what denomination you were at, And so I think a part of the appeal of that is that kids are they're just what's the word I'm looking for? They're not tainted by the world yet at that point. There's an innocence, there's an innocence that haven't been. So we just love that. We love that. Yeah. And then in children's media, you can literally do anything you want. There's no rules, and you don't have to justify anything. You can have a talking cactus or a talking clock, and it's like, okay, talking dinosaur.
I think we also we also enjoy the challenge of putting our own spin on children's media, in the sense that we're somewhat cynical people, I guess. We could say that. I mean, anyone that knows us would tell you that. So we like to add a little bit of that cynicism into our children's entertainment, just because we think it's funny. Yeah. And it's just it's just, you don't see it a lot. Like, people are kind of scared to do that sometimes. They want to be just so like even keeled, worried to offend, worried to make a joke for adults, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's fine if that's that person's appeal, but our style has always been a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, we know we're doing a children's show right now, and we like to put a little bit of humor in there for the adults. And kind of going back to the influences, some of the influences we didn't talk about, or like Laurel and Hardy and Three Stooges, and you go back to that sort of ne'er-do-well humor and that physical comedy, that sort of two characters or two or three characters just really nitpicking at each other, and it's it's prevalent throughout media, but I think just those are big influences on us. And I think being artists and creators, and any artist that you've ever talked to, there's always a little bit of cynicism, and especially somebody who's trying to produce their own stuff and pitch it and try to get a show and get money. There's always that little bit of like, what am I doing with my life? And we think it's fun to put that a little bit.
We like to lean into it.
Yeah, we like to kind of, art imitates life sort of deal.
It really does.
So anyways, back to Charles. That's how we got to Charles. After the pandemic, we decided it was time to come back. We gutted our studio. We have a studio here.
Not after the pandemic.
No, sorry, at the beginning of the pandemic, during lockdown. We decided it was time, because we did nothing. All our jobs were paused, and we gutted our studio, and we built this set over here first, which is a set for kind of the reboot of our Fantastic World show. And then that's where Charles kind of evolved out of that. And so those were the first two things we did. And also in the pandemic, we met Stan, who is the host of the Very Airy Library, which is the second set we built during the pandemic behind me here. And it just gave us the opportunity to kind of write and to build. We love to build things and use our hands and make prompts. And we really allow the sets to inform the stories and the characters. And then simultaneously, we're thinking about distribution and how we were going to get our products out there. And YouTube just made the most sense for us right now. So we did a lot of research and really tried to understand the format of YouTube, how it's different than what we were used to in terms of, typical broadcast style television,
Right.
which we're a little bit more familiar with in sort of either the 12-minute or 22-minute segment. And so with Charles, it just kind of made sense. We wanted to just try to do a show that was a little bit more in that YouTube format, sort of, 5 to 10 minutes long, just very simple. There's no main narrative thrust to Charles. What we've kind of honed in on is that it's a craft-based show or a maker show, a creator show. And just the idea is that we engage with the kids and we do a little project with our hands, and they can just follow along. And that's kind of where we're at with Charles right now. I know that was a long way to get to a short answer.
Well, we have an hour here, so that's the whole point of this show.
Good talk.
Yeah, we do this longer show so we can really get the behind the scenes and why we're doing these and all that. And I did watch several, but I thought the humor worked.
Thank you.
It's one of those things. I obviously, Bernie didn't. We only went for the young children, and that was it. We didn't have any of that adult humor. I obviously grew up with Sesame Street that did.
Yeah.
And there was always that aspect of it with Sesame Street. And so I think it's one of those things that, it's a fine line balance. It's just fascinating because this is kind of the new world where we're in, where you don't have to have all those backgrounds and things like that. You can create a show, but then when you start doing it, you realize how hard it is, and all the different lines and the things you got to do and all of that.
Yeah.
But when I saw your shows, I was amazed that the production value is through the roof.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Coming from taking things back to a commercial background. I mean, we own all of our own stuff. We've honed the skills that it takes to make quality production, because you have to in the commercial world. You can't.
Sure.
You can get away with it to some degree on YouTube. Plenty of YouTube channels do, because
Right.
they're more about the information and things of that nature. But we do have the skill. We've always enjoyed, making things of the highest possible quality that we could, that our equipment allowed for. And we knew when we started doing the YouTube stuff that we wanted to challenge ourselves into bringing in the quality, but also designing shows, because frequency is so important on YouTube. How often you put out a show.
To be consistent.
To be consistent with that quality. But then you also have to take into affordability to account. So it's the classic three circles that, you can only have two: price, speed, or quality. And we're really trying to have all of them. So that's really what we're trying to perfect here. And as you can see, we have our studio here in Atlanta, and we've built all of our sets. They're all in the same room. And so we have all of our equipment. And whenever we're doing the Very Airy Library, which is that set behind us, and then Charles said it's actually off screen over here, it's easy for us everything is pre-lit. So with this one switch, the professional lighting comes on, and then our cameras are all in place, and we can be filming in a matter of an hour.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've shortened the shows so they can, because there's still the post-production process, sound mixing, music, adding sound effects and things of that nature. But to be honest, the resources available to independent artists at reasonable prices is just completely changed over the past few years. Music catalogs that provide not only music, stock video, special effects, sound effects, graphics. You can subscribe to these things for $150 a year in their open licenses. So that allows creators to access to libraries that they never had access to before. They had to hire a professional to bring that in.
Yeah.
So working in commercial, we've been able to figure all that out.
We have a core group of creative friends that we've sort of grown up with too in the industry that do help us. Deep professional directors of photography. They come in and help us light the sets, and that are just, we would consider extremely talented. So we have a core group of people that we've surrounded ourselves, musicians, just people that understand our sensibilities, understand what we're going for, and help us create them. But back to Jared's point, we started our first pilot we filmed, and for all you technical folks out there, it was all tungsten lighting, just hot as the dickens. There's no AC in that.
We had
studio.
no AC in our studio.
It was probably well over 100 degrees because it was tiny, and we just had
We were shooting in
tungsten
the summer.
blasting, just Fresnel lights everywhere on us, shooting the summer, just sweating between every take,
Just trying to,
wiping ourselves off.
trying not to look like gross kid performers.
Yeah, you always write that line of we
Yeah.
always joke, it's like, man, are we becoming carnies?
Yeah, like
Like,
there's a sweat mark and 2 tears away from being.
yeah, you're like,
carnival actors.
you're performing and you're like, notice a little hole in your shirt. And you're like, oh man, this is the train. This is it. We're carnies.
This is it. Yeah, we did it.
So we started with those tungsten lights. Those were expensive. If you want to buy a kit of, like, we were using like ARRI lights or like Lowell lights, which is kind of like a cheaper version for those of you who know what they are. There's thousands of dollars back in the day, and you only get like 3 or 4 lights in it. You can go on Amazon and buy newer lights, like literally the brand newer, for like $50, $100, and you can get some decent quality LED lights that are cheap, that don't run up your power.
Yeah, that's just the other thing.
You
You gotta
can
have the
produce-
power to run all the
Yeah,
tungsten. It's not
we
like-
shoot everything on Blackmagic pocket cameras with Sigma lenses. This is not expensive stuff.
Mhm.
So if you do your research and you find some people that know what they're doing, you can create the same looks that we create for very minimal expense in the grand scheme of things. You just have to, you got to just put in the work, really, is what it comes down to.
Well, that's what I love about all this, right? It evens out the playing field. It gets rid of the excuses. It really comes down to the creative part instead of how am I going to afford to do this and make my dream. It really becomes on you, which is what I'm seeing. So yeah, it's impressive with the show, Charles. What's interesting to me, I mean, that thing it's all right there. As you joke about a tight little space, it's a tight little space. I mean, it's all right there. And I, that's hard. That's hard to fill that, to entertain, to educate. I mean, there's no room for anything. I was like, wow, they're really taking something on here. And
it's funny
especially when you're doing it week to week to week.
Yeah, and it's on wheels too. It's on these little dollies. And so every time I step into it, it rolls about 3 inches, and I gotta like keep it back into place.
Yeah, it's like we could just take that set down the road if we wanted to.
I was like, oh, I gotta tie this thing down. I'm tired of it rolling away on me.
Is it a struggle to write a show each week?
For Charles,
Yeah.
writing has never been a struggle for us. I know it is for some people, but it's never been. What the struggle is figuring out how to play within the box that we've created. And I wouldn't even say this was a struggle. I think what was important for us was to create a box, because the anxiety comes in when you have this open-ended, when there is no parameters. There's nothing informing the content. And when we first started doing Charles, just to be candid, it was like I have a 3.5-year-old son. I watch a lot of pre-K content, and I was watching Blippi with him. And Blippi has obviously inspired a lot of, and I owe a lot to Blippi for in terms of the inspiration in regards to what's possible through the YouTube format. And we just felt like with our experience performing, and then our production experience, our production design experience, we could bring something new to the table. But when we first did the first few episodes of Charles, we were trying too much to just be like Blippi. It was just like, oh, we'll just play with things and have fun. And that's just not who we are, really.
Right.
We are creators and makers, and it took us, we're just now, we launched Charles in November of last year. So we're about 3 months into Charles right now. We have 36 videos up online. Some of those are just like sneak peek videos, but we probably have 15,
20.
20 episodes of it. And we're just starting to figure out what this show is, you know, and I think that's important because we have to give our space, we have to give ourselves space to fail. We have to
Right.
give ourselves space to figure out what to learn and to grow and to figure out what we're making. And that was super important. That is super important for us.
That takes doing.
Yeah, this just takes doing. So all that to say is we've sort of started to figure out what Charles wants to be. And he is an artist and a creator, and he wants to teach kids how to use their imaginations, but give them practical methods to do creative things. So one of the things we sort of discovered is drawing using shapes and letters. And so I just figured out that I could teach drawing skills using very simple methods. And so my 3.5-year-old son is drawing things you would look at and you go, how did you draw that? And it's quite simple. I'm just teaching you how to use a circle, a square, oval, rectangle, the letter T, you know, a W. How can you combine these things to make something else? So ultimately what informs Charles is teaching kids how to use their imagination, but also use practical skills to create stuff. So each week we've started just sit down and go, okay, we'll use Play-Doh this week. That will be our medium. And I'm going to show the kids how to make, like we're doing a blippy face this week just because, you know, we still have to think about search results and all that stuff.
Sure,
So
sure.
we're teaching them how to make a blippy face. We did how to draw a puppy dog last week using shapes and letters. So using those parameters, it's not so difficult to figure out a show. And then I literally improvise everything. There are no scripts. We just straight up just do it. We do one take most of the time. We have 3 cameras rolling at the same time. And then we'll go back and do a couple pickup shots here and there. But to be honest with you, we're fortunate that we have those skills, because it can be frustrating if you're working with somebody that isn't as good at that, because you do have to do multiple takes and, you know, have lots of scripts and stuff.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a part of being able to churn out an episode every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know. You know, when we were doing Barney, we're doing 10, 12 takes because you've got kids and
You're that
costume.
costume?
Yeah, in the costume, and then you've got the kids and the huge sets and all those things. Oh yeah, it's 10, 12 takes.
Oh,
It was 2.5 days of shooting.
just for one episode.
Just
And
for
you
one
had to do
episode. Yeah, it was a full week of 2 days of rehearsals and then 2.5 days of shooting.
Yeah, man.
That's-
See, like we've kind of like one thing that if you get to know us, you know that we don't like to work very long during the day.
We don't like to film very
We don't. No, we work all day. But honestly,
Like, it's a running joke with all of our friends. Like, if you're on a Brodeo Pro, which is Brothers Young Productions shoot, you're only going to be there about half a day, because that's as long as they want to shoot.
yeah, honestly, like 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe, like with lunch in there, and we're done. Like we just can't do it anymore. We get
It's just diminishing returns. It's just,
yeah.
Matthew and I have always been like firm believers of really enjoy, like, when you're not making much money, you better just at least enjoy what you're doing, right? So it's like, at the very least, we're gonna like lead a good life where we really enjoy this. So as soon as we start feeling like, I don't really, I don't enjoy this anymore right now, like, all right, we're done filming.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. So
so
yeah, as soon as that
You can
kicks
do that
in.
when, you know, all your sets are one light switch away from being lit.
But see, that's it. You've done the important parts, and I'm dying to start talking about the Very Airy Library, because I was just blown away.
Thank you.
Danny had sent that to me, and I sat there and I immediately said, I need their information. I need to get them on the show. You just don't see shows like that on YouTube.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry.
Very impressive. So let's start from the beginning with it. Where did the idea come from for this new show?
Well, so as Matthew said earlier, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were introduced, or right before really, I guess, introduced to Stan Tucker, who has a company called Leap for Literacy. And Stan invited us to come film his fundraiser dinner that he was doing. I think that was the first thing we did with him. And so our company documented his fundraiser and made a video for it and so forth. And then the pandemic hit, and one of the programs that Stan has was he goes around to schools. And obviously when schools all close, he could go to the schools, I guess. No one would be there. But so he wanted to do more of a virtual, have more of a virtual presence. So one of the things we started doing was just filming him reading books. That was the
like on a simple
on a
gray
very simple
background.
gray background. And then we would just go in and like film the book and very simple stuff.
Sure.
And then from there, it kind of evolved. He wanted to do a little bit more. He has this program, Share Your Story program, which is this fabulous program that kids can do. It's an 8-week course that takes them through the process of writing their own book. And he sent them this blank book. And then what he wanted to do was make videos for this program. And so we built a small set. Not this set, just a small set that was in here. And we made these courses. It turned out to be a pretty big success. It's just growing and growing. And then we also started doing young author interviews on the set, kids that had written books. That what he does is he chooses kids that wrote books from the program, and then he has them has an illustrator professionally illustrate the book, and then he would present them the book on this particular iteration of the show. And it was just you could see what it could be. You could see the seeds for something special. And Stan's a great guy. He's very charismatic. People love him. He's just a great talent himself. And
he is like how he is on the show.
Yes, he's
like
got a huge heart for kids, for literacy. He's just very genuine. And Matthew and I were attracted to that.
He's also a go-getter, which we've always kind of sort of prided ourselves on our own, being self-starters and just having our own initiative and being entrepreneurs. And we're kindred spirits in that regard. We think very much alike. We're both just very motivated. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And okay, let's just do it.
Let's just do it.
and so yeah, I felt like it was the seedbed for just a good relationship, a good partnership, with our kind of background, our creativity, and sort of him having this program, being so passionate about what he's doing. Seemed like a good match. So we sat down together and decided just to make a show, to make a children's show. And so, I conceptualized the idea of the Very Airy Library. It's sort of, I did not come up with a final name. That's actually attributed to one of the characters in the show. Her real name's Connie. I'll tell you about her in a minute. But we just conceptualized the idea of this kind of loosely based off his read and roll program, where he drives a bus to underprivileged schools and kids get to pick out a book. Was the idea of this mythical library that exists in this place, and it gets destroyed, and then he goes and finds it, rebuilds it into this flying contraption tree. It's a tree that flies, and just can take it around wherever he wants to go. Take the books to kids, using that as a thrust. And we just started kind of the way, like I said, the way that Jared and I kind of create and conceptualize is we just start building. And then the set will tell us what it wants to be. We got this thing, let's make this, and those all the things inform each other. And so characters are born out of that. This is going to be the engine room, and so we're just going to have an engineer in here, and she's going to pop down, and that could be a puppet, right? Yeah, that's a puppet. We don't have room for anything, so that's a puppet.
I got to think when you're coming up with this idea and you're talking like this. Yeah, we're going to have a tree that flies. Well, there's a production involved. I mean, how are you going to show that? And that's the part that, and Stan is amazing, all these things, but it started off with that. And I was like, well, look at that. I mean, that's impressive. Yeah. You obviously didn't even concern yourself about that. How are we going to make this library?
Never concern ourselves. Like, we'll figure it out. Like,
we never worry. Well, like we said before, we do really enjoy practical effects, practical sets.
Which is what I love about this.
Yeah, it's like and
throwback.
We did want to try to mix in some technology where we could, using some of the virtual sets and stuff and things that you can take a camera with and interact with the set.
Yeah, Unreal Engine. So like we're not Luddites, we embrace a technology where it's at. We want to be on the forefront of technology, but we also respect the past and the history, and we understand how practicality informs creativity. We don't want to be standing in front of a green screen or standing, we want to inhabit the set. It's how we embody the characters, to be honest with you. But we do embrace technology. So even in Stan's set, if you open up, you can see it. There's a window back there that is a digital screen. It's an LED, big LED screen. We hook that up to Unreal Engine. And then so the set can inhabit inside this virtual space. And the idea is that we can create environments that
instead of that
feel
being
bigger than they
instead
are.
of that being a green screen that you got to go in later and put the ship flying up or whatever, we can do that practically on set and that live, which is honestly, like, since TVs have gotten a lot cheaper and projection devices and things, it's really right up our alley now. Like, we never really we did some with green screen, but it's never been our thing. So now that things have kind of gone back to more practical sets, even though they're virtual, as with The Mandalorian and stuff, really kind of made that, really brought that to the forefront of filming. We want to be right alongside that stuff. And so, like, even with the ship intro to the show, where the ship's the tree ship, whatever you call it. I guess you call it the Very Airy. Yeah, I guess it has a name. But when it's sitting in the forest and whatnot, that's, we put our big screen behind the thing, the ship, and filmed that way practically. It's no green screen or anything like that. And it's just exciting. You can see it come to life right in front of you.
Yeah, it's like, we're creators, so it's not just a means to an end. It's the journey that we really do enjoy.
Yeah, and we derive a ton of satisfaction from people even just walking into the studio and seeing the sets, lit up, all next to each other.
Yeah,
and it's just,
presentation.
Yeah, it's magical. I mean, there's definitely something magical about it. That's what we've always loved about live action and being able to actually go somewhere, and for a kid to actually come.
When kids come here, when they walk in, they see it, and they come to the set, they're just, and their parents too, they're just blown away. Like, they really feel like they are, in the library or, submarine or wherever it is. They feel like they're in that.
It's very rewarding. Like, it is very rewarding to see that feedback.
Yeah.
Well, I think you guys have done such a good job with the mix of it has the old school, but it also feels very modern. And I'm looking at that set, it looks so much bigger, when you're seeing the show.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I just recently listened to, for the second time, the Henson biography, which is great, biography, sorry. If you haven't listened to it or read it, check it out. But he figured out that the television was the proscenium or whatever, that was the stage. He figured that out, and I think innately we understood that too. We're really good with dimensions and understanding what is important for the camera. We're playing to a camera.
Yeah, we're building a set for a camera.
Yeah, and so this isn't, as much as it's, we love theater, it's not theater. It just, you have to understand how the perspective and when you do close-ups and when you have where's your wide, where's your big established. And so we've always kind of understood, like Henson did, that the frame is what we're building to. And so, and Jared kind of, he has the visual for the sets, like, in his head. He's like the master of, like, I know exactly how this is going to be, so I'll come up creatively with, like, a storyline or the parameter and inform, where to start. And then he kind of takes it from there and goes, okay, I see the dimensions here. This is the space we're working within. And this is how we can build this set. All that to say is that if someone is at home and they're trying to figure out, and they have a space and they're trying to figure out what you do, you can make something look a lot bigger than it actually is if you understand what the camera is seeing. You understand how to utilize the ceiling of the camera. Like, where is if I put a board at an angle, I can cut off the sight line of the camera, and all of a sudden I've just made my set feel a lot bigger, or if I lift the wall back and the sight line can go now all the way up to this angle, then I've made the set feel a lot bigger. So what I would recommend to anybody is set up your camera, get your 18 millimeter lens out, your wide lens, start with your wide lens, see where your frame is going to be, and then sort of pencil out and mock up from there, what your set might look like. And you can do a lot with a little, look at Charles. That thing is tiny. And it feels like I'm in a treehouse.
It's very well done.
Thank you.
Who's coming up with the characters for the Very Airy Library?
Oh, we do. Yeah, we do. We come up with them all. Yeah, I don't know. We just.
And are you guys doing the voices too?
We do a couple of the voices, and we have some. Our friend Yasmin does Philo, the puppet. Honestly, we've kind of always.
I think that comes back to being able to turn a show around quick.
It's about practicality, right?
Right.
What we figured out. Honestly, puppets, like for the digital puppets for us, like the two guys on the wall, they're a way to stitch the edit together when you need to cover transitions. So we always joke, it's like, I will just cut to a puppet line. So if we're filming something and we're in the editing process and we don't have a way to transition from this close up to that close up, or from this line to that line. Well, okay, well, just record me a line real quick and I'll throw a close up of, Cody in there. Or we have a story gap. We don't understand why this. It's like, we'll just record Cody saying it, and Cody's one of the puppets, and we'll just throw that in there. So it's a crutch to a certain degree. It's an editing crutch. It's a story gap.
It's building a formula that lets you, again, film something and being able to turn it over in a week's time. It's all part of process. It's no different than having the set pre-lit. It's having this formula that helps you write and film and edit without having to go back and refilm something that you're going to put up a few days later. So yeah, a lot of what we do is designed around convenience, which lets us do stuff at a price that we can afford and then turn around at a pace that's YouTube friendly right now.
Well, that's what was so obvious, and it was so impressive when I'm watching it. It just all made sense. I was like, well, of course you do it like that, and yeah, you do it like Cody and that. It makes 1,000%.
Yeah,
right, because you've got to add the value of having these different characters, but that's an easier one to do.
Yeah, you want to create a breadth to the world,
right?
But you don't want to bring 10 actors in, and you can't. It's got to
behind the walls, and then everything just becomes a slog.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and the difference of those characters, the sophisticated one and the there's so much to play off of there, right? There's so many places that you can go with that.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing is that we wanted Stan to be the straight man.
We didn't want him to have to.
We didn't want to have him to be the humor crutch. Mm-hmm. So the whole point was to add characters around him that could be a little bit flawed, could have, could say things that were a little reverent or, off kilter, and he didn't have to do that. So the point was to just surround him with characters that could do that. Also to give characters that can look through the perspective of a child, from the perspective of a child. So Stan being the host and the teacher character, we needed characters that can learn. And I think that was important for us because we didn't want to have a bunch of children on the set, because for a number of reasons, it's just difficult. But you want characters that can inhabit childlike tendencies. So I think it's important to have those, especially in the children's media. If you don't want to have kids on set, you need some character to be the one that is taught something. And it can be a different character every week, obviously. But we want a character, especially like with Philo, and she can learn something from Stan. She sort of embodies like the innocence of the child, and that she's learning too with the children that are watching the show. So that's another functionality.
Yeah. Back to that point, one of the things that we thought would make the show hopefully eventually a success. I think it's a success creatively, but to a wider audience, would be that Stan maintains his honesty. That you believe that he's this person. He's not just coming on screen and you feel like he's putting on a persona. Stan's not an actor. So we didn't want him to try to have to act. We wanted him to be able to, just be himself and not feel like he was performing. So surrounding him with larger than life characters that could sort of absorb and be the absurd presence was very important to Stan maintaining his Stanness.
Yeah.
Well, you've hit on those areas. you know, he jumps out at you. I mean, he's perfect for that. And
Real. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wanted more, which I know is the whole goal, right? That's the whole goal of that thing. I was like, well, I want to watch something else. I mean, there's a success right there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the goal is to get people to want more. And we got more. We've got more coming. We filmed 4 episodes. We've got an animated portion of the show that's coming out. It's kind of just an animated little segment that will be, we wanted to sort of do this homage to kind of the old school, like Mr. Rogers, like tiny world within a world. So there's like a train set on the back wall, and that is a straight up homage to Rogers. And each week or each month, we're going to do an animated episode, but it'll be led in by the train. And we kind of just love that idea. Well, let's go into this little tiny world and see what's going on over here and what these characters are doing. And you know, and that's practicality too. It gives us another week to, if our animator is making the show, animating it, then we buy another week to do editing or, you know, filming. It's all about how you can figure out that schedule of creating on a weekly basis without, you know, losing your mind. And, you know, in your time, completely sucking up your time.
How long does it take from shooting to editing for one episode?
So shooting takes about, depending on the episode, probably like 3.5 hours. And we shoot it, you know,
These are short episodes.
Yeah, you're talking about 4 to 5 minute
Sure.
episodes, talking about 22-minute episodes. And we shoot it linearly. So, you know, meaning we start at the top of the script and then we just go through it. We might end up shooting the same shot 3 times, but we do that just because we don't have to think about like scheduling out the shoot. We just go, okay, and we start here, and then we got this, and we got this. It's just easier. We have a jib that we roll around and shoot most of our stuff on, and it just gives you this.
Right here, I can roll
Yeah,
it.
just Matthew will roll it out just to give you guys kind of an example. Just a visual, but it allows us to get a high production value shots very fast.
That's great.
So it's just a small jib. It's a jibbo. It's called a jibbo, and it's probably the best piece of equipment we've ever purchased. You know. So we just roll around the set and just get our shots and get a little bit of motion on the shots and just get that production value real fast without having to do a ton of like taking your tripod up and down. So I highly recommend a small jib if you're in a studio. You get cheap ones, you know, you can put your DSLRs on them, mirrorless cameras, but it's a great way to get a lot of great shots very fast. Because again, you know, time is money is quality.
Yeah, you get.
Are you bringing everyone in, shooting all the performers first, and then doing
so when
all that other B-roll stuff?
So as an example of like just the pilot episode, which is actually live right now, you can just see it on YouTube, which only has Stan in it, and then it has some the puppets. So what we'll do is we'll shoot all of Stan, and then afterwards we'll shoot the puppet close-ups. And the thing about the puppets is you can use a lot of the same close-ups. So like the other episodes that we have filmed, I mean, Matthew and I will come in and just film puppet. No one's here. It's just me and him filming the puppets, and he's just doing the digital voices, and you know, we're just getting inserts that I'll go reuse 20 times. You know, and it's the same with Philo. It's just, you're just getting a lot of just kind of canned footage that you can go to. So you don't. That's the thing about filming and then editing. So editing an episode, a lot of the work is up front, like formulating. Matthew built the tree model, and that took a long time, many hours. You know, he never built a model of that.
Yeah, never sculpted
magnitude, sculpted. Yeah, so there was a learning process there. But then it took us a couple days to film that, but we got a bunch of shots that we reuse again and again. You're gonna roll it out. It's got it right there. So a lot of the work is up front, like building out assets that you're just gonna like bookend every episode with. So a lot of the real core editing comes just in the meat, like the stand stuff. That's the tree. There's the tree. Just rolling around. But yeah,
And how long did that take you to put together?
Hundreds of
hours,
hours,
yeah, like,
man.
if someone knew what they were doing, they would have.
No,
probably done
yeah,
it
like I
before,
did. I
so,
never
yeah.
sculpted it. Like literally, it never.
But that's
sculpted.
the fun of
But I
that's the
wanted
fun of
to, you know
production,
what?
you know.
I wanted to. Like, it wasn't about like, could we find somebody that could do it? Do it. Yeah, we could find somebody that could do it, and we'd pay a lot for it, and whatnot. But I wanted to. Like, I felt like I could, and I never sculpted anything to that magnitude before. And I was like, man, I just want to try. I just want to learn and do it. And I got so much joy out of just making it. And it's cool and it's fun. And no, it's not perfect, but I knew exactly what I needed to look good on camera.
Yeah, that's the
And
other
so,
thing. Is you know what needs
and
to
what
look
I
good.
didn't need. So it was fun to make. But
That's kind of funny as like an aside before the pandemic. The school would come every year and they would bring their kids through our studio. And we do a talk on art in film and what type of art is in film. And basically it's every type of art you can imagine.
yeah,
So it's sculpting, it's editing, it's filming, it's lighting,
it's music, it's costuming,
set building, costuming. So we love all those aspects. So when something presents itself, like making a model, it's not just about having to have the model for the film. It's about the process of making the model. It's about the process of making the set and choosing the colors.
But from a storytelling perspective, like making the model informed the story, just the limitations that you have. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is how the balloons are going to work. And this is where, the steam is going to come from. And these are where the engines are going to be. And, a lot of it's just practicality. It's like, oh, that's where they got to go. So that's where it's going to be.
Yeah. And then what's on sale at Hobby Lobby for?
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's something though that with you doing everything like that, it just probably takes the authenticity and takes it to another level.
I think so.
I mean, doing that yourself, it's really impressive.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think, we're DIYers. Like we're indie filmmakers. We have a lot of friends that work in the studio system, especially here in Georgia. Every Marvel movie is made in Georgia now. There's so many productions in Georgia. And when I talk to kids or, we'll talk to high school students sometimes, I say, you got two paths here. You can go the studio path and work your way up through that path, or you can be an independent and you can go learn how to do a little bit of everything. And there's neither one is right or wrong necessarily. It's just two choices. So we've chosen independent. And because of that, you got to kind of learn to do a little bit of everything, at least passively. But with that comes a lot of freedom and there's a lot of joy in the creative process. So yeah, we like to do all that stuff. We like to figure it out. And, if we mess it up, then we'll.
So back to your
melt
question
it down.
about how long does it take to
Yeah.
So like, whatever, 4 or 5 hours for filming, just depends. We have an episode coming out that will have a reoccurring character. Matthew mentioned her earlier, Connie, who is actually a teacher and educator and an author. She's long time. She's also a children's author. We met her through Stan. She was actually interviewed on the little dinky show we were doing with Stan before. And Matthew and I are like, man, we love her. Like, she's got this genuine nature about her. She's just she's just very honest. She comes across very honest and friendly. And we're like, Stan, she's got to be on the show. She's like, I don't care if she's an actress. She's just going to be very honest. She's going to come across very honest. And I think that's going to be very important to this show, especially when you look into her background, you see that she's actually an author herself. And she was a teacher for a long time.
And super creative. She's the one that came up. It's like, we need a name for this show. And she's like, the Very Airy Library. I'm like,
well, she came up with a big list of like possibilities and Very Airy Library. We're all like, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Let's go with that one. Like, that just has something about it.
Yeah.
But so it was her first time ever acting. So, which was an adventure. It's funny with Stan and the pilot, we actually filmed it twice because the first time we filmed that, I went back and edited it. Stan will kill me for saying this. like not very good. Like, I can't put this out in the world. Like, and he wasn't good in the sense that he was trying to act. And a large failure on our part, mainly, not his, in the sense that we were still trying to find that voice, that honesty, the fine line between honesty and just, classic bad acting. So we filmed that episode twice. But Connie came on and she had never acted. She was so funny because she was just so nervous and like getting those lines right. And a lot of it was about, with her and Stan, was about like, we don't need you to say every word that is written in that line.
Yeah, it's like, I promise you, I did not spend that much time writing these words.
Like, oh, I missed the and, or I missed this. It's like, make it your own. We want you for your honesty, not because you can read a line poorly. We could get actors to do that. It's we want your honesty. So when we have actors on set, it takes a little bit longer, especially when they've never filmed before. So that's been a little bit of a learning curve, learning the terms, like, just as simple as action, here's your spot.
Yeah, open up the camera.
Yeah.
Those simple things. So no episode will ever take us more than 4 to 5 hours to film. I think 5 is the absolute. But we would just stop at that point and be like, all right, good enough. We got something.
Cut to puppet line.
Yeah, cut the puppet. And
you guys wouldn't know this, but a lot of that's where Barney was. I'd never been in a costume.
Yeah.
There were several of us that had never been in costumes before. Baby Bop was a mascot. But they saw exactly what you were doing. They saw the heart. They saw the things that they wanted and knew they could do the other part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to teach what Stan brings to you.
Yeah.
So and that's what you guys do anyway, you should be able to help him with that acting part.
Yeah.
So I think that part's brilliant that you've done that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's and it's just like, there's just when someone's like that, they want to be there.
Right.
I was like, I got an audition in an hour. Like, are you gonna pay me my $100 and I can go? Like, they want to be there. They want the show to be great. They want. It's important.
They'll tell people.
It's important that everyone knows about it and stuff like that. So again, a part of the editing process is developing those assets, whether it be the intro, music cues, things of that nature. It takes a little bit more time on the onset when you're developing the style of the show and what's going to sound like. But once you've got that, it's a lot of it's just drag and drop. And I encourage anyone that's trying to do a show of high production for YouTube, fast turnover, just develop those assets you can reuse again and again, and don't be afraid to do that. Embrace that. And what you're doing is putting in the meat of just in the middle. Which doesn't take, for me, I've been editing a very long time. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of time. We have a process where we have 3. Well, I think on Stan's, we actually do mainly one camera. It's mainly a 1 camera shoot, just by the nature. Sometimes you can slow things down if you're trying to do 2 cameras because they just neither camera gets a shot. So when you embrace sometimes 1 camera, you're able to move just a lot faster. So we do that. We have everything synced up in post with sound. Stan just wears a lav. We don't do a boom mic or anything like that, which speeds up everything.
Yeah, I think audio was one of the. I know we're getting a little technical, but this is practical.
No, it's great.
Might be able to watch this and learn something.
Honestly, one of the biggest. If you put more money into your audio than you do your camera.
Absolutely.
I always say audio is the science and the visual is the art. People do not forgive bad audio, but they will forgive a bad visual if the sound is good. So we use really expensive mics.
But you don't even have to get.
You don't necessarily have to get these sound. You just got to learn how to place it right. And then the other big breakthrough for us was we record in 32-bit float. So audio is typically recorded in 24-bit. Your typical sort of Tascam or recorder that you buy, your phone, everything's going to record in 24-bit. But 32-bit float, for those that don't know, is sort of raw audio. So what it does is it's essentially recording the gain at its highest and its lowest all at the same time. And so when you're performing, you can change your voice a lot. You can start yelling or you can speak really quietly. and what 32-bit float does is it never peaks. So when we go back and he's editing, it's infinitely recoverable.
So you don't have to, no one has to ride the game.
Yeah.
So you just go like, and we film in Blackmagic RAW for the same reasons. You know, you're able to go back and post and you're not like so worried, did I get my white balance right, things of that nature. Did I mess up something? Well, you can easily just change it in post, you know, like quite easily. So a lot of what we do is about eliminating those little worries, those little things that, did I get it right, is going to mess up the whole shoot. And the more things that you can figure out where you can kind of cut those off.
Because we made those mistakes in the past. We've made all the mistakes. We've gone in and the audio's blown out. And we're like, oh man, you got to redub the whole thing. It took us a long time to figure out how to get good audio. And now it seems like so easy, but it took us a long time to understand how to get decent audio. And so I guess we take it a little for granted at this point, but you know, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
But once you get it, everything's repeatable, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you're filming a show every week. It's just like, make it repeatable. That's all I can say. Make it repeatable. Same lenses, same everything.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel each week.
Yeah.
All right. Finish up here. When's it coming out? Where can people watch it? And you guys are going to do this weekly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like, you can do this weekly.
Yeah. It's coming out. The pilot, you can find the pilot on YouTube now, the Very Airy Library. And you can also go find our other stuff, The Fantastic World. If you just type in The Fantastic World, Charles, our other channel will come up. But the Very Airy Library pilot is online now. We're going to start releasing the episodes weekly on February 7th. And we have 4 episodes in the can right now, so we're at least that much into it. And we'll be filming this coming week. We're filming next week a couple more episodes. So we have pretty good lead time. And it's on YouTube. It's just going to be on YouTube right now. We wanted to make sure that we, like I said, gave ourselves permission to fail, to grow the show, to figure out what its voice is, what's working and what's not, get a little bit of live feedback from the audience that matters, you know, kids and people that are actually watching the show. And so, so it's just YouTube right now, and we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I have a feeling it's going to pick up an audience, and I can't thank you guys enough for being on. I love it. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate the time, and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
And thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you next week.